Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor here. Really excited about today's show. Know we're going to have some great energy, some great information, and some great practicality because we have with us none other than the meal makeover moms, Janice Newell Bissex and Liz Weiss, also the authors of No Wine with Dinner, a wonderfully titled books, also the hosts of the Cooking with the Moms podcast, and soon to be the providers of the Meal Makeovers app. Janice and Liz, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks for having us.
Well, Janice and Liz, just to get started, I really want to dig into your story because I think a lot of our listeners, and the thing that attracted me to your work in the first place was your story and your just overall approach. What got you to where you are today from a nutrition, cooking, and practicality perspective?
Well, we're known as the Meal Makeover Moms, and we're registered dietitians. And for years, we were hearing from fellow moms, on the playground about their struggles feeding their kids a healthy diet. And this was around the early, what year was this, Janice? 2000 or so, when our kids were on the younger side. And, when you hang out on the playground and people find out you're a dietitian, you become very popular and they want to know, how do I get out of the chicken nugget rut or the mac and cheese rut? And so we would, Janice and I as dietitian friends just got to talking and we said, we need to do a cookbook and we need to start giving moms guidance on how to feed their kids a healthy diet that they're still going to be happy eating and picky eaters, great eaters, you name it. We just wanted to give them good nutrition.
I love it. Well, and I can imagine that it's, for me, in my experience as well, this is such, empowering moms, I found, is just such an important component because more often than not, the mother is really like the health CEO of the household. She's the one who oftentimes may even not pay attention to her health because she's so concerned with everyone else's health. So really making sure that she's equipped with the most practical and most proper information around diet and nutrition can really change lives, can it not?
Definitely. I mean, that's very important. And you also need to give moms the tools, not just the knowledge of, okay, these foods are healthy, but you need to give them recipes. This is how you can get dinner on the table in 20 minutes so that it's not overwhelming for them. So that's what we try to do as we develop recipes. We try to think, okay, nobody wants to spend, very few people want to spend 2 hours preparing dinner every night. So we try to streamline things and make it easy for moms.
Well, and Janice and Liz, what have you found to be really the keys to enabling an individual, especially moms, to both from a cost and a time perspective, provide those meals? Are there some key principles you follow, or how would you guide mothers on a general level?
One of the things we like to talk to moms about is convenience foods, but choosing them wisely. And I'll give you just a few examples. You can go into the grocery store and you can buy a can of beans for $1 or less. And there's so much you can do with beans that bring great nutrition to the family dinner table. And it's inexpensive and it's good. It's very nutritious. You can buy other convenience foods.
Shredded cheese.
Yeah, cheeses that are already shredded for you. Because, and if they're on sale, even better. So these are all little shortcuts. Salsa. I was just at Trader Joe's the other day and they have an awesome fire roasted, low sodium salsa that is just out of this world. A lot of salsas are salty. A lot of convenience foods can be salty. So you got to read labels, but there's so many convenience foods that can get you to the dinner table quickly without breaking the bank. And certainly, I don't know too many people who make salsa from scratch, but you certainly could do it if you wanted to. But if you need that quick convenience, it's out there. You just have to be a little bit of a supermarket sleuth, to find the best products possible.
I love the idea of not, because I think so often people equate healthy eating with it's automatically going to be more expensive and it's automatically going to be more difficult. But what you said, which is spot on, is if you approach this, if you're given the correct tools, you can have convenience food. It's just a different kind of convenience food. An example, one thing I've really been enjoying recently is hard-boiled eggs. You boil a bunch of eggs over the weekend and you're hungry. There's an egg. You maybe even pre-peel them while you're watching television or something.
Right.
And you just reach in when you have that food available to you ready, you cook in bulk, you've got some frozen vegetables. It's just as easy to grab a boiled egg as it is to grab a bag of potato chips, is it not?
That is definitely true. And Jonathan, do you boil your eggs or do you bake them?
I've never actually baked an egg. How do I do that?
Yeah, no, I tried that this weekend for the first time because a fellow RD said that she
registered dietitian.
She bakes her eggs, and you get a 12-cup muffin tin, and you put an egg in each one, put it in the oven, 325. I think it was for 20 minutes. Maybe it was 25. And my daughter ate one after she went running on Saturday, and she said, easy to peel, really nice.
Oh, good.
So that was, and we love, in fact, that's what we're going to have for lunch today. We're going to have egg salad made with those hard-cooked eggs.
And when we make egg salad, in fact, it's funny you mentioned the hard-boiled eggs because I was just going to say to Janice today, hey, we should do a blog post on how to hard cook eggs because, you could bake them or you could do it stovetop. And if you cook them too long, you get this nasty green ring around the yolk. It's not pretty to look at. And if you have a kid who might be on the picky side, you certainly don't want that green ring. But when we make egg salad, we use canola-based, expeller-pressed canola-based mayonnaise. We added a shredded carrot to it to boost the fiber and the vitamin A. You can even take an all-natural bacon, cook that up. You can make bacon in the oven too. Drain, the fat away and chop up just a slice or two. And all of a sudden, you've got this really kind of interesting egg salad. You could add bell pepper that you chop up. So there's so many ways to take that hard-cooked egg and turn that into a family meal that everybody's going to love. And I did do egg salad the other day for the kids, and they hadn't had it in a while. And they said, Mom, this is unbelievable.
No, I love it. Two tips that I recently discovered, which have really helped me with, and I've never done the baking, but I've done the boiling. I'm curious your thoughts on this. One has to do with making the peeling easier because that's really what stopped me for the longest time. But I found that if you add, I think it's either baking powder or baking soda, I just use whichever one I have in the cupboard into the pot while you're boiling them, that does something with the alkalinity of the water such that the peel just like you can almost it just comes off in one big chunk, for lack of better terms.
Wow. Well, I've not tried that, but if you take them from the boiling water or the oven and cool them quickly, that helps also. Put them in a bowl with ice water.
Oh, very, very cool. Yeah. So that and then the baking soda. And also one other thing I've enjoyed recently is I eat them, and this is, you could call this the lazy person's egg salad. I eat them just with cottage cheese, like adding the cottage cheese, like maybe I have like a bite of cottage cheese and a bite of the egg. For some reason, when they combine or I just mash them up in a bowl together, it doesn't look particularly appealing, but it sure does taste good.
Don't serve it to your guests, but it's fine when you're alone. Yeah.
Dinner party fare. Yeah. And, the other two great things to have with hard-cooked eggs would be hummus, which is made from chickpeas, or avocado, which is one of our favorite foods. And, my kids don't love avocado just straight up, but they adore guacamole. And if you're wanting to cook with your kids and get them excited about healthy eating, it's a very simple thing to do with kids where they mash the avocado. You could add some finely diced tomato, some lime juice, some gorgeous chopped fresh cilantro, and a little red onion and salt and pepper. And you've got this great snack for kids. And you could take carrot sticks or bell pepper strips and dip in that guacamole. Avocados are a great source of heart-healthy monounsaturated fat and a zillion other nutrients. So that's a good one to do when you want to get kids excited about cooking and nutrition.
I love that. And the combination there of the high-quality protein from the egg and the high-quality fat as well as the fiber from the avocado. I mean, that's something that's really – that could be a snack, but that's going to be so filling that it's almost a meal.
Right.
And then you can grill some chicken if you want even more protein. I mean, we could go on and on. And now it's making me dream of my CSA that I'm going to have this summer, community supported agriculture, and all the gorgeous fresh produce that you get every week in your basket that you just have to get a little creative with.
Well, and I love avocados also, and I'd love your take on this, Liz and Janice, because I think it's a great example, and I'll give another one in a moment, of what I like to call fibrous fats. And when you can find naturally occurring fats that are also rich in fiber, to me, that's like a 1-2 punch that's hard to beat. Avocados are a great example. Also, cocoa, pure undutched cocoa is an incredibly fiber-rich fat. And it seems like when you find fiber and fat in a natural package together, you're also getting an amazing amount of nutrients there. Have you also had that experience?
I mean, those are two of our favorite foods. We love chocolate. We love cocoa. And avocados. I think it's great. It's that sort of nutrient density concept that, when you have a food, you want to make sure that you're getting a lot of good things in one package, and avocados and eggs and cocoa. A lot of those foods meet that bill.
It's making me think of our black bean brownies, our gluten-free black bean brownies,
Ooh.
where you're pulsing together eggs and black beans, and we've got cocoa powder in there.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of sugar. It's hard to do brownies without that. But if you're looking for a healthier dessert, we've used red beans in brownies before, and it's just a nice way to get, more fiber, more protein. And, you don't have to add that, 2 sticks of butter. Mm-hmm. I grew up eating brownies. My mom made the best brownies in the world. Of course they were the best brownies. They were like sticks upon stick of butter. So I do try to avoid that and going for those better for you fats. You can even use, avocado. People use that in desserts too,
right,
as a fat replacer, if you will.
And we do a lot of ground nuts in our desserts. I like chunky nuts, but a lot of times kids don't. They don't like to bite into a big chunk of a nut, so we finally chop them and add that to a lot of our desserts or baked goods, and that makes it, adds the healthy fat.
And you can use chopped nuts as a coating if you are going to coat, say, chicken and you're going to make a homemade chicken parmesan. We've used ground flaxseed as a coating. We've used chopped nuts. Mm-hmm. You could use Parmesan cheese. So there's great ways to boost even the coating on a chicken Parmesan. Well, we're using chopped nuts.
And what about our walnut crusted salmon recipe? Mm-hmm. That's also a good way to get, that's a double punch of omega-3 fats.
This is just getting out of hand here. I'm going to have to go pause this podcast and just raid my refrigerator. We're going to start. No,
Jonathan, you're saying, wait a minute, forget the cottage cheese. I'm going for the salmon.
No, I love salmon. I eat salmon almost daily. I mean, I live out here in Seattle, so our salmon is quite delicious. But Janice and Liz, one thing I wanted to dig into was for some of these fats like avocado. We've already given some great examples. What are some ways for cocoa? Often it's not immediately obvious how we can incorporate cocoa into our diet without the immediate, well, just eat another Hershey's bar. Okay, wait, like that's not what we're after. What are some sane and low sugar ways we can incorporate more cocoa into our diet?
I'm dreaming right now of a smoothie made with low-fat milk, whether you're a soy milk or a cow's milk or an almond milk, whatever, a low-fat milk or full fat if that's the direction you're going in, some peanut butter, some cocoa powder, some banana. That would be a really yummy smoothie where you could incorporate some of that cocoa powder. Get that chocolatey hit. I like it.
What I found for me, that's just for me personally, that the intentional incorporation of cocoa into my diet was such an important breakthrough because I have a profound sweet tooth. My whole family does. And it's not because I eat sugar and then that triggers this cycle. Like I actually don't eat any sugar almost in any form. I mean, of course, there's going to be some incidental sugar in vegetables, but it's just something in my brain occasionally crave sweets. But when I eat cocoa, that actually triggers the dopamine response, which I believe the sweeteners normally would, and I'm good. And I didn't have to take in any sugar to get that enjoyment that I typically would need sugar for.
Have you ever used cocoa, Jonathan, to make sort of a mole sauce with some chilies? And have you ever done that?
So it's my podcast co-host, Carrie Brown, who's a former pastry chef. She describes the way I cook as more of assembly. So anything that requires more than like take A, B, and C and combine them in a bowl, I have not done, sadly. But that sounds delicious. I've had mole sauce. I love it.
Okay.
He's like, I'm going to go to Mexico for that thing.
Well, no. How would one do that? I also have a Vitamix blender, and if that would help, I would use that as well.
Oh, wow.
You know what you could do in your Vitamix? I haven't done this, but you could pulverize together pecans and ice. And that would make a pecan ice cream. And then you could add some cocoa powder to that to give it a little chocolatey hint. And that would be delicious.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
We're going to fly to Seattle, Jonathan, and we're going to cook with you.
I would love it. You have an open invitation. We will video record the whole thing, and it will be wonderful.
I'll be out there in June. Maybe I'll take you up on that.
Oh, please. I've actually written down a note to follow up with you after we finish recording. June.
I love it.
But speaking of the Vitamix and ice cream, that's actually something I want to dig into more because I've been doing some experimentation there. I haven't perfected it yet, but I've been shocked. And again, this is probably not going to taste good to most people. I've been eating a little bit differently for so long that my tastes have changed pretty substantially. But I do something as simple, and I'm hoping you could maybe make this even more delicious here on the spot, as taking pure untouched cocoa powder, put it in the Vitamix with some guar gum to thicken and some xylitol to sweeten. And I just add some water, and then I blend that up just so it's all mixed up. And then I just throw a bunch of ice in there and maybe some cinnamon. And for me personally, it creates this delicious chocolate sorbet. Some other individuals may like it a little bit sweeter, but I'm to the point where just so little sweetness actually seems like a lot of sweetness for me. But what else could we do in that space?
I'm feeling the nut love there. Some walnuts or pecans might be nice.
Right.
I don't know. Are you doing the fruit thing? Some
mango, or add a little bit of frozen mango,
or blueberry, or banana,
or even like maybe a strawberry too, because like the chocolate covered strawberry kind of vibe.
I like raspberry with chocolate. That's a nice combo. But blueberry and chocolate, surprisingly, you'd be surprised. That's a really nice combo.
Yeah, that's my daughter's favorite. She likes blueberry smoothies. We add a little cocoa, a little frozen blueberries, and she loves that. And a little peanut butter too. She just wants peanut butter in all her smoothies.
Well, I love that. And I wonder if you could basically tell me what you think about this. Could you essentially, with some experimentation, take any not any, but most smoothie recipes, just drop the water content a little bit and use, if you have a Vitamix, they give you this little plunger, which you can kind of enable the Vitamix to blend things which may not normally blend, because you got to kind of push them down into the blade. Make sure you don't use, make sure you have the proper tools before you do this. Don't use your hand to push stuff down into the blade. But it seems like if you've got a smoothie recipe, in short, you have a sorbet / ice cream recipe. You just need to reduce the amount of liquid.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's more like a slushy if you add a little less liquid.
Yep. And and to be clear, folks, it's going to be a little bit more like a soft serve ice cream. I would imagine for the listeners here, like, don't expect it to be like a traditional carton ice cream, but we all like soft serve ice cream. So if we can make that healthy and delicious, that's good too.
Sure.
That's right. Well, I think you're golden. You're in good shape here.
No, I appreciate that. But I want to get back, Liz and Janice, to our idea of cost and convenience, because we didn't really touch too much on the cost aspect, but it seems like there is this dogma which is just mathematically not true. Like we can do healthy shopping and we can blog post about it and we can show, like, look, this costs just as much, if not less, than if I bought a bunch of packaged stuff. How do you help individuals with eating healthfully but not breaking the bank?
There are a lot of strategies. Number one, I mean, I personally look at the circulars, the sales circulars for supermarkets to see what's on sale that week. And I'll stock up on things that are on sale, canned beans, things like that for my pantry, and plan my menu around what's on sale. You can buy in bulk. But, people need to remember that if you're cooking at home, you're saving money. I mean, eating out even a couple of times a week really adds a lot to your overall food costs. So if you bring it home, you use real foods, and you will end up saving money, even though you might say, oh, well, this is a little bit more expensive because it's, I don't know, an organic spinach or whatever, and it's an extra $1. If you really look at it closely, I mean, carrots, you can buy carrots for 99 cents for a pound of carrots. There are all sorts of good items in the fruit and vegetable department. And again, I buy my meats when they're on sale. So if there are boneless, skinless chicken thighs on sale, I'll say, oh, let's do that recipe, from our book using the thighs. We have a pulled pork primavera recipe in our book. A slow cooker is another easy way to get dinner on the table if you're short on time. You just put stuff in the morning, whether it's a beef stew, or we have pulled pork where we put some onion, a shredded carrot, maybe some finely minced red bell pepper in a little barbecue sauce, and you just let it sit all day and you pull it apart. It's a beautiful pulled pork.
And the other thing, too, when you're using the slow cooker, to build on what Janice said in terms of saving money, is that the slow cooker is low and slow cooking, which means you can take a tough, inexpensive cut of meat, say a brisket, and cook it for 8 hours on low. And it breaks down the connective tissue in the meat. And that's why it's a cheaper cut, because it's a tough cut. But now it's going to be like melt in your mouth like butter by the end of the day, because you've cooked it so low and so slow. So you can save a lot of money using your slow cooker or by braising meats, stovetop or in the oven. And you can go for those cheaper cuts.
Well, that really is a 1-2 punch there, Janice and Liz. Not only are you saving money, not only is it delicious, but sticking with the low cooking temperatures not to geek out too much, but that's going to drop the amount of advanced glycation end products or things which when you cook food at very high heats, you can sometimes do bad things to them. But when you do that slow cooking, you're also going to get an additional benefit, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely. So, you're going to get nutritional benefit in the slow cooker. You can add lots of vegetables. The slow cooker likes vegetables. And even if you're doing a beef stew, Janice had alluded to, you could, right at the end of it, you could add some frozen petite peas that you thaw out. I love keeping the freezer stocked with organic vegetables, and my kids love frozen peas and corn and spinach, and so you can stock up on those. And like Janice said, if they're on sale or you find a coupon somewhere, the other way to save money at the market is to go for the generic brands, the in-store brands. It's often made, you might, for example, I'm just trying to think of a in-store brand of a salsa. We were talking about salsa before, and it might be really a national brand that just private labeled it for the supermarket, and you're going to save that way as well. So just read labels and get the best one out there.
Well, the slow cooking, for me personally, I also really love. Not only is it a set, forget, save money, save your health, but also it's the ability to cook in bulk, which I think is such a profound win in general. Anytime I personally cook, I'm curious your take on this. I cook for now, and I cook for the freezer. Like I literally, if I'm going to spend time cooking, you better believe that I'm going to get at least 2 meals, if not dramatically more. And what's cool about this is, if you want, you often end up only cooking like every other day or every 3 days, because when you do cook, you've got this backlog of stuff in your freezer, and then you can just bring it back, and it's glorious.
Right. I mean, Liz sometimes teases me and says I'm the queen of vat cooking. Again, if I'm going to cook, I'm going to make a big quantity, partly because I have a lot of friends that stop by for dinner and I entertain a lot, but partly because I do want to put it in the freezer. So on those nights that you don't have time and you come home and it's 5 or 6 o'clock at night, you can just, look at the freezer and pull something out.
Right. And it's making me think of this minestrone soup that we have in our cookbook, No Wine with Dinner. It's a favorite with my kids. And it calls for cannellini beans and sauteed zucchini and carrots and onions. It's just gorgeous. And you could easily double that kind of a recipe and freeze it, or just have it the next night, or put it in your kid's lunchbox in a thermos the next day. And so instead of making all that effort just for one meal, you've got 2 meals. And the key is to label and put the date on. When you put things in the freezer, Jonathan, as we know, 3 years later, you pull this bizarre freezer burned item out of there and you're like, what is that? So label, because you'll lose money if you start losing control of what's in your freezer.
Well, and Janice and Liz, I will echo that with a quick anecdote and also a tip. And the tip is going to be, if possible, get clear storage containers so that you can actually see what's in the storage container. That really helps. And then if you don't do that, you may have something like the following happen. So we are very let's say cost sensitive here. I'm very, very conservative with how I spend money, and we reuse cottage cheese containers. So we go shop at Costco and we get these big cottage cheese containers, and they're wonderful containers, and I save them and I use them as you would use any sort of Tupperware container. The problem, though, is that I have so many now, and I use them almost exclusively, that I do all this cooking on the weekends, and I just put everything in cottage cheese containers. And I opened the fridge, and 3 weeks ago or so, my wife was like, Jonathan, where is the, X, whatever. And I was like, honey, it's in the cottage cheese container. And she opened the fridge, and she was like, so you could have just said, like, it's in the fridge, because I have no idea. Then we had to open like 20 cottage cheese containers. So yeah, labeling and clear containers definitely helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Have it buy a Sharpie, for Christmas. I want a Sharpie, honey.
Oh, I love it. And you mentioned something earlier, Janice and Liz, about saving money just by cooking at home. And another great distinction here, which is I often think that sometimes we don't consciously recognize how, this is going to sound funny, but how valuable saving money is. Let me give a quick example. If cooking at home allows you to save $400 a week on food, which is not, if you're buying Starbucks and you're buying all these other packaged processed foods and eating out, that's pretty conservative, especially if you're feeding a family. If you save $400 a week, and that takes you, let's say, 4 hours worth of cooking, right? You're essentially getting paid $130 an hour to cook.
I like that.
because you have to remember, one, you avoiding $400. Like, to make $400, you actually need to make like $600 because there's taxes, right? So if you avoid spending, you're avoiding spending money after taxes. So you automatically got to tack on an additional 30%. Then just divide the money you saved by the hours you spent, and you essentially got paid $130 an hour to cook. That's a pretty daggone good hourly rate. I'll take that.
I like we that. We were a finance major in college.
No, I was actually an economics major, so yes.
All right.
I love it.
No, it is amazing how much money you can save. And the other thing when you're cooking at home is that even though you might think, oh, gee, I had to go buy all this food and I could, it's expensive. Well, we've just already talked about how you save money. We've proved you save money, but you also are now buying better nutrition. And so all these foods you've purchased are nutrient dense. So every time you take a bite, you've taken a bite, it's cost money for that food, but now you have all these nutrients per bite. If you're just eating empty calorie foods, processed foods, convenience, fast food, you're not getting a lot of nutrients per bite. So you might pay a few pennies less, but what are you getting? And when you're feeding your family and you're really laying the foundations of good nutrition for your kids and you're role modeling all those good eating habits, now's the time. We always tell parents this, to establish those good eating habits so that your kids will start craving all the good for you foods. I remember one night making dinner, I was rushing around. And my son, Simon, said to me, Mom, can I have a vegetable here? Because there was nothing green on his plate. I think I might have had edamame or something on there. And he was not thinking, well, that's green actually. But he wanted like something salady or bright colored. And so it's like you want them to crave it. That's the beauty of establishing those good eating habits early on.
Right.
Well, I'm going to geek out. You mocked the economics here, but so now I'm just going to do it to spite you. No, I'm just kidding. But I hear what you're describing is a positive externality of cooking at home as well, which is you get all these other side benefits. Like you're setting a good example for the kids. You're getting them involved in the kitchen. You're teaching them things they could leverage for the rest of their life. And to further geek out, you're avoiding things that I don't think any of us would actually ever cook with. Like let's take safflower oil, for example, like something that just didn't exist in the human diet up until recently and has increased in its consumption about 100,000% over the past 100 years. None of us go to the store and buy that and cook with it. But if you go to a restaurant, they do because it's very inexpensive and you buy it in gallon drums and it's very, very bad for health. So you're also going to avoid these synthetic things. You would never put them in food, but when you eat out, they absolutely do.
And what about the sodium? When you eat out, you have no control over how much sodium that chef or cook is adding in the back kitchen. And I will tell you, it is so much higher than what you would do at home. And I know a lot of consumers do try at home to cut back on sodium. So they add less salt to their cooking and they're using more herbs and spices and they're getting creative. But if you go out to eat or you rely on packaged foods, that's when it starts to add up. And you really, we all need sodium in our diets, sure, but we don't need gobs of it. And so eating at home just has so many great benefits, not to mention it's a little quieter. You go to a restaurant, it's hard to have a conversation with your kids. It's so chaotic. So it's nice to sit around the table and have those conversations.
And one more thing, we talk about the cost of eating out or eating at home, but when you look at the long-term costs with regard to your health, that's another thing that you have to factor in too. If you're eating at home and cooking with real food, you will have better health down the line. It won't spend so much money at the doctor's office.
That's exactly right. And when we talk about eating at home, I mean, that seems like that is a gradual, one of many gradual steps we could take. And I think that concept of gradual steps is so important. So what I'm wondering, Janice and Liz, is I think oftentimes, especially if we're busy parents, this concept of where I'm at now, and then I just need to go to like healthy eating, and there's this chasm in between, and I don't even try. What are some gradual steps, like step 1, step 2, step 3 of like do this first, and really don't worry about this at the beginning, but gradually, what would you recommend there?
I would say start slowly. It's funny because we had a mom who sent us a message on Facebook just yesterday, and she said, my son, this is opposite from what we usually hear, my son is losing weight. He's a teenager, and he's just not eating enough. And we just grab fast food, and we're on the go. And so clearly, while most people are gaining weight, this child is losing weight. And I said, if you want to start making positive changes, do it slowly and start with every week menu planning. Sit with your son, go to our website, mealmakeovermoms.com, and go to our recipe index. And you and your son sit and look through the index and pick out a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner recipe to try that week. Something that appeals to both of you. Make that recipe together, give it a try, and now you're one step closer to better nutrition. You've taken that baby step, and you might like the recipe, you might not. You might add it to your regular repertoire moving forward, but do it slowly. So find good websites, a website you trust, hopefully with pretty pictures of those recipes so you can see how to present it to your family. And as Janice was sort of alluding to before, go with the real foods. And I know you're obviously all over that, Jonathan. Get away from the packaged stuff. If you go for it, choose wisely, but make the changes slowly and think real food, think fresh.
And if a family is eating what we would all probably say is not a healthy diet, then take them gradually. If they're drinking soda, for example, just by taking the soda out of the diet as a first step, or if you're drinking soda every day, maybe have it once a week to start and then gradually get it out of the diet. So just taking a couple of steps every week, as Liz said, and just, okay, this week we're going to add this to our diet and we're going to get rid of this from our diet. And then just gradually see the improvement in what you're eating and see the good results.
I think that is such profound advice. It's this per week. Maybe pick, like you said, like one recipe. Well, it's also fun. You get to spend more time with the kids. Pick one recipe, pick one substitution, and literally that's all you do that week. Like you have to, because what we want you to do is we want you to start having those small victories. And as you start to have them, you start to gain momentum, and you start to gain momentum, and you start to gain momentum. It's just like if you wanted to run a marathon, you wouldn't go outside and try to run 26 miles on day one.
Great analogy.
Run a little bit more. And the good news though is that you'll look back after a year and you've made 52 of these little changes, and you'll be like, oh my goodness, you won't even believe where you're at. But if you try to go there too quickly, that's the easiest way to derail yourself, right?
Oh, it's so true. And, I was just thinking when my younger son was in kindergarten, he had this friend who the mom, said, my son is so picky. He's the pickiest eater. He won't eat vegetables. So of course I'm like, I'm getting my hands on this kid. So he comes over for the play date, and I'm giving the kids lunch, and Simon and I were eating edamame. So I took the edamame in the pod, I boiled them for a few minutes, and then I drizzled with extra virgin olive oil and a little bit of kosher salt. And Simon and I were popping those edamame beans out and eating edamame, and his little buddy was like, what are you eating? I said, oh, gee, I don't really have enough to share, but I guess I'll share with you. So I started sharing with him, and this child he doesn't realize I'm eating a vegetable. Mm-hmm. And he loved these edamame. And then his mom emailed me. She said, Josh wanted me to go buy this food that you gave him today, but he doesn't even know how to say it. I said, oh, that was edamame. And then from there, this child started to expand his horizons because he had that little success and realized, hey, I do like a green vegetable. Aha. So you have to just take the plunge and be playful. Have fun with it. If you get too strict and say, you must eat this, then of course you're going to get pushback. But have fun with it. Make a game of it. And the kids will eventually get used to it, and they'll love it.
Janice and Liz, I love it. And you mentioned something there in one of your tips, which was, find a website, sit down per week. And I would give one additional piece of advice there, and it is look for websites like Janice and Liz's website, mealmakeovermoms.com, that have one key characteristic, and that is there is a vibe of love in the website, because there's so many recipes, quote unquote recipes, on the internet, which are not actually, I would be surprised if they were actually ever cooked by the person posting them. So go to a website such as Meal Makeover Moms and find individuals such as Janice and Liz who clearly care about what they're doing, that clearly have a deeper mission around what they're doing, and clearly have a holistic approach to this. They're not just cranking out recipes, they're cranking out experiences and health, and find those resources and leverage those, because if you pick the wrong recipes, then you try this and you're like, well, this is a hopeless effort. I failed. No, you likely didn't fail. It was likely a bad recipe.
And and we do test our recipes over and over, sometimes to the point where we're pulling our hair out. Well, we wear hairnets in the kitchen, of course, but We are dietitians after all. And, but we do test a lot because we don't like to be criticized, Jonathan. And that's our worst fear in life, that somebody will send us an email and say, hey, ladies, that didn't work. And we want our, we always test it out on the kids. And we have 4 kids between us. I have 2 boys. She has 2 girls. And so we do put a lot of TLC into each recipe because we want families to be successful and to say, you know what, good nutrition, that's what it's all about,
That's absolutely right. And folks, if you like what you hear, which I can't imagine you're not, because Janice and Liz are just spectacular individuals here, please go check out mealmakeovermoms.com. Also check out their blog there, just an amazing amount of free content. And then, of course, be kind, support what they're doing. Grab a copy of No Wine with Dinner. It's a wonderful resource. Check out their Cooking with the Moms podcast while you're up on iTunes getting your Smarter Science of Slim fix. And then also be on the lookout for their new Meal Makeover app, which I can imagine is going to be awesome.
It's going to be chock full of great recipes. And when you're in the supermarket, you're thinking, oh my gosh, pork's on sale. Didn't Janice and Liz mention that pork primavera in the slow cooker? Oh, here it is on my app. And then you're good to go.
I love it. I love it. Well, Janice and Liz, thank you so much for sharing. This literally was, we talk about nutrient dense food. This was a freaking nutrient dense podcast. Like we have to listen to this a couple times to extract all of the tidbits of wisdom that you shared. So I really appreciate it. And we really appreciate your insights on the show and certainly hope we can have you back.
Well, it was great being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you, Janice and Liz. And everyone who's listening, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. And remember, this week and every week after, you can eat more and exercise less as long as you do that smarter. Talk with you soon.